that grim update from the police commissioner in Ahmedabad city that no survivors. He said there are no survivors from that crash.
Let's get the latest on that Air India crash. We can go now to Gatwick Airport, where Nick Ellerby, Times Radio's reporter, is. Nick, thanks for joining us. Just paint the picture for us. What's the scene at Gatwick? Any sign of people who might have been expecting people arriving on that flight at 6:30 tonight? Any sign of people there?
So in terms of here at Gatwick, I'm in the North Terminal. That Air India flight that took off at 9:08 UK time from Ahmedabad Airport was supposed to arrive here at 6:25 this evening. There's a huge press area here at the North Terminal of Gatwick. I mean, international press here. There must be some, I think, 25 news crews here. We know they're setting up crisis teams here at Gatwick to deal with potentially families and loved ones of people who are expecting to welcome their family and friends on that flight, off that Air India flight at 6:25. We know that it never really made it more than 650 feet off the ground as it left Ahmedabad this morning, Dominic. We've just had an update from Gatwick Airport, who have confirmed the Boeing 787 aircraft did have 242 passengers and crew members on board. We understand the crew's probably around 12. As you heard in Andy's bulletin there at the bottom of the hour, 53 British nationals are confirmed to have been on board, 169 Indian nationals, 1 Canadian and 7 Portuguese nationals. And that grim update from the police commissioner in Ahmedabad city that no survivors, he said there are no survivors from that crash. There's really some shocking footage of the plane coming down in a ball of flames, huge billowing smoke into the air. Photos of the tail of the plane sticking out of a building. It came down in a very residential area called Magani Nagar, just outside the airport compound in Ahmedabad. We understand as well over 100 bodies have been recovered from that crash site. The UK Foreign Office are working both here in London and also in India with their crisis teams. And Air India also have crisis teams set up, and if anyone wants more information, they're being urged to get in touch either with the UK Foreign Office or Air India themselves.
Any details yet, Nick, about the 53 Britons on board?
Not as yet, Dominic. As I say, here at Gatwick, I think they're trying to keep the press away from that crisis centre in the other terminal. The Air India flight was supposed to arrive at the South Terminal this evening, but as yet, no information about those passengers. We do understand, though, a former Indian politician from Gujarat was aboard that flight, but as of yet, that's the only information I've received as to the identity of those passengers. The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called it heartbreaking beyond words. We know this is the biggest crash Ahmedabad has ever seen, and in fact the Boeing 787 has been in the air since 2011. We understand some 1 billion passengers it's carried in the last 14 years, over 5 million flights, and this is the first crash from that aircraft. We understand as well the Prime Minister's been kept updated. Sir Keir Starmer says his thoughts and prayers are with the passengers and their families at this deeply distressing time. So we understand, people were looking forward to welcoming their friends and family off that flight here at Gatwick at 6:25, but never got further than a few hundred yards out of Ahmedabad Airport.
Thank you very much, Nick Ellerby, live there at Gatwick Airport. We're just waiting to get a local correspondent up from Delhi, and in fact we can talk to him now. Parsa Venkateshwar Rao is based in Delhi and he joins us now. What do we know about where it landed? I have seen some reports on Indian social media and some Indian media outlets as well that it fell onto a medical hostel or a training facility.
Yeah, it's a medical hostel. I think that was an accident, that it was a medical hostel. Where it fell is in the neighborhood of the airport. You see, as soon as the plane took off, it ran into trouble and it didn't gain height. The explanation being given is that the thrust was not working and it didn't gain height, and then it sort of nosedived. And a few minutes before it crashed, there was an emergency message from the cockpit what I'm told in the aviation is called the Mayday message.
Well, thank you very much, Parsa Venkateshwar Rao from Delhi, bringing us the latest events on the ground. Let's have a chat to Graham Braithwaite, Director of Aerospace and Aviation at Cranfield University. Graham, thanks for taking the time to have a chat. Just bring us up to date. The aircraft involved, a Boeing 787, I think entered service in 2011, something like that, the type rather than this particular aircraft. It has a good safety record to date. There hasn't been, I don't think, any loss of life involving the Boeing 787.
That's right. It's been a very successful aircraft. There's been no hull losses, so no write-offs of any aircraft, and no fatal accidents involving the aircraft type. So it's a very well-regarded aircraft.
We know something about the circumstances of these crashes. There are videos circulating. It looks like the aircraft simply maybe lost power or had something happen to it very shortly after takeoff.
That's right. So it's a critical stage of flight. An aircraft needs to accelerate to a certain speed to take off from the runway. It's continuing to accelerate at that point. It's dependent on things like the flaps to generate sufficient lift whilst it's flying slowly. And then things like the undercarriage are a bit of a compromise once it gets off the ground, which is why that stows away and helps the aircraft climb. It's a critical phase if anything goes wrong with the engines, but that's something that's practiced for, and it's something that the engineering risk is managed very well normally. It's also a critical stage just in terms of workload, the things the crew are going to have to do as well. So investigators will have to take a very painstaking approach to understand what happened in what was a relatively short space of time.
Are there any similarities with other aviation incidents in the past? Because it is very rare for an aircraft to have a problem immediately after takeoff.
Yeah, so although we look at the accident and say that actually the phase of flight at takeoff is a critical stage, actually these are incredibly rare accidents. And as we've said, the 787 has this otherwise unblemished safety record. So every accident will be treated individually. We will look for things that we might learn from that we can apply to many things in the future. But I think at this early phase, there's always a danger of jumping onto one piece of evidence and thinking that explains everything. And yeah, that can be very dangerous.
And I mean, again, this is looking a bit forward, but it's not unknown once the preliminary investigations are out of the way, if it turns out to be a problem with the aircraft, that aviation authorities will ground particular types of aircraft if something occurs in the preliminary investigation that shows cause for concern.
It's always there as an option. It's a relatively unusual thing to do. And of course, the question from every passenger, every crew member and every airline executive at this point will be, is it safe to continue to operate? Well, looking at the 787 as an aircraft type, I think the answer is still absolutely yes. But whatever comes out of this investigation will be fed back really, really quickly to the industry. So I wouldn't expect any instant reaction other than to make sure that we've got the facts right before we make any decision. Because actually looking in the round, we have an aircraft that's got a really good safety performance, and I don't think that instantly indicates any real issue there. But I think be reassured that as an industry, we are absolutely always asking the questions about is the next flight sufficiently risk managed? Are we safe? That's a healthy obsession for our industry, and there'll be a real keenness to learn from this as soon as we possibly can.
Thank you very much, Graham Braithwaite from Cranfield University.